President Trump instruct you to say that there was no quid pro quo, sir? Excuse me, sir. As a respected attorney, I'm sure you understand how the free press works, sir. Thank you. Can you say definitively, sir, that there was no quid pro quo?
I'm not giving any comment until my testimony. Thanks.
Why was it important for you to show up here today?
It's always important to show up when Congress calls.
Are you here to salvage your reputation, sir?
I don't have a reputation to salvage.
That was former Ambassador Gordon Sondland arriving on Capitol Hill in October of 2019 to testify in the first House impeachment inquiry of Donald Trump. Sondland is now suing former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and the U.S. government, seeking $1.8 million in legal fees. The former U.S. ambassador to the EU insists that Pompeo promised his legal costs would be covered, but then reneged out of that agreement after his testimony. And Sondland's suit demands that either the federal government or Pompeo himself personally reimburse him. A spokesperson for Pompeo issued this statement saying, quote, "The lawsuit is ludicrous. Mr. Pompeo is confident the court will see it the same way." And it's the last week in May leading up to Memorial Day weekend, traditionally somewhat of a sleepy time here in Washington, D.C., but not this week. As families hit the road ahead of Memorial Day, it's also when the rubber meets the road for President Biden's ambitious agenda, a wide range of priorities colliding with the cold, hard reality of the ticking clock and Republican opposition. Joining us now are NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell and Politico White House reporter and Playbook co-author Eugene Daniels. He's also an MSNBC contributor. Great to see you both. So, Leanne, the president has set a number of deadlines, at least a couple of which are set to come and go this week without meeting those goals. Namely, you've got the infrastructure talks with Republicans. He wanted movement on that by Memorial Day. And then policing reform. He wanted progress on that by tomorrow, the first anniversary of the death of George Floyd. So where do we stand on those goals?
Hey, Jeff. So Congress has a lot of balls that they're juggling in the air right now, and we're at the moment where some of them are going to fall by the wayside and others they're going to catch, and we're just not sure how it's going to work out. There are the deadlines that are coming later this summer that are set in stone by legislation, including there's a debt ceiling. There is unemployment insurance. The federal benefit runs out later this summer. They also have to fund the government by the end of the fiscal year at the end of September. And then we're running into the self-imposed deadlines that make things more complicated, especially when you combine those two things, especially the closer we get to an election season. Of course, we're still a year and a half away from that, but we know that Congress likes to campaign for 2 years before the election. And so, we're looking a lot at police reform, something that is more likely than not to happen at this point. But then on this idea of a bipartisan infrastructure deal, that looks like it is going to not be bipartisan, as Senate Republicans and the Biden White House are still so far apart, at least $1 trillion, and they can't even agree on the definition of infrastructure, Jeff.
So, Eugene, at what point did Democrats move toward reconciliation on infrastructure? That's that maneuver that allows them to pass some of the priorities without Republican votes. White House officials have been telling me, and I think the president even said this publicly, he said he wants to get Republicans on board, but he's not going to wait forever. So at what point do they sort of, cut loose and move on?
Yeah, I think the one thing they keep telling us here at the White House is that the only red line is inaction. And that's kind of where it seems like things are going if they continue to wait on Republicans to sign on, or if they try and move to where, have even less money to where Republicans want them to go. On the timing, the White House is, and sources here, they are not saying exactly how long they're willing to wait. Jen Psaki wouldn't say that today when we were in the press briefing asking her questions about this, but they are behind the scenes, they are not confused as to the fact that this looks like it's going to end up, like Leanne was saying, to be not bipartisan, that it will be passed through reconciliation. They are hoping to do that. They are trying to be really strategic and creative in the ways that they engage with Republicans, going to local Republicans and talking to them about, hey, what's the issue that you have, Mrs. Mayor? Don't you want to call your Republican member of Congress and tell them that they need to pass this deal? And that is the kinds of things that they're working on. But one thing that's really interesting is because you have where the Republicans are, but also for those Democrats like Joe Manchin, have these negotiations gone far enough, long enough to where he feels like a real bipartisan hand was put out, that the White House has done enough, that Democrats in the Senate have done enough to try to get a bipartisan deal in order to sign up the reconciliation? Because at the beginning, him and some other moderates were saying they don't want to do this reconciliation. So that's also a kind of complicating factor here.
Yeah, it's a good point. The White House also wants to be seen negotiating with Republicans. So, Leanne, let's put back up that graphic of all the things that are on President Biden's to-do list. You've got infrastructure, policing reform, the Capitol Riot Commission, voting rights, gun control, nominations, the Combating China bill, jobless benefits, and the debt limit. Which of those things has sort of the most momentum and the best chances of getting across the finish line?
That's not a to-do list. Excuse me, Jeff. That's not a to-do list that even I would want.
Yeah.
But as far as Congress is concerned, sorry, I have something in my throat, but I'll get through this really quickly. It seems like police reform is the most likely because there is some bipartisan rank and file motivation to get it done. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is not getting in the way of it at this point. Infrastructure is the other thing. Just because Democrats and Republicans both agree that something needs to be done, and this has been a priority for President Biden, but I just don't see Republicans coming along with what Democrats want. And excuse my voice.
No, it's all good. It happens to all of us. Leanne Caldwell and Eugene Daniels. Eugene with the bold sartorial choice on this Monday afternoon. Hats off to you, friend.